All right. Call the meeting to order of the North Country REMAC. Sign-in sheets are outside the door. We'll mark down the people who are virtual. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In my portfolio, which is.
Meeting were forwarded out. If there's no movement, that's kind of.
It's a good show.
Dr. Green, you have a second? Perfect. All in favor?
Minutes, okay, sure.
DOH enforcement list. You get that shared.
Okay, so since we met last, there was only 3 of them. Unfortunately, one in our area. So the first one was 413 is Samuel Cooperman from Cortlandt Manor. Part 800.3 AK, he was convicted of a criminal offense and he has surrendered his card. The second one from 418 is Scott Sterling from Prospect, convicted of part 800.3 AM negligence, and he received a 3-year probation and a civil penalty of $2,000. The third one is Casey Eldridge from Antwerp. 3 part 800.16A 1 and 2 failed to comply with the requirements, negligence in duties, exceeded scope of practice, and abandoned a patient. Got a 3-year probation and a civil penalty of $500.
And we don't have any correspondence, so I'll let Dr. Delaney introduce our guests here tonight.
So Dr. Dan Bryden and Dr. Lauren Lukey.
No, doctor.
Oh, geez, doctor, I'm sorry, I called you doctor. Are here from Samaritan's Trauma Program.
Hi.
If you want
You guys are, the floor is yours.
Yep. Anything you want to talk about or?
Well, Samaritan's Trauma is going through the initial stages of our Department of Health provisional verification process. So, you know, as we kind of a little bit, obviously we've had some personnel changes. We're just here to have a little bit more of an attendance with you guys and just, you know, being a little bit more aware of what our regional affiliates are up to.
And so Lauren's taking Michelle Meehan's position.
Okay.
Well, we use a lot of acronyms, so if there's something that we're using as an acronym, just say, what is that, so that we can, the military has a lot, we fall right behind them with acronyms, so if there's something that we're saying you don't understand, just give us that deer in the headlight look and we'll stop and give you a clarification on what it is.
My husband's active duty, so I'll try and keep up with everything.
So the next thing we have is the air medical reports. So let me get those up and shared. And Colleen, the floor is yours.
So I had given the prior REMAC Remsco Q1 report, so January, February, March on the bottom tabs, and then you see Q1, that's the total tabs. Yep. So right there it shows how many requests completed, transports canceled, aborts, declined, and then what I did was the declines, I looked at how many weather declines were from those declines, because we are now IFR at the Watertown base. So we're gonna start seeing a decline in the declines because of the IFR. So then what I did was I updated for quarter to date for April and May. So if you go to Q2, April and May on the bottom tab, correct, there you go. That right there just gives us 2 solid months of Q2 of our data. And also you'll see an increase when it comes to requests and or transports, because we now have 714, which is operational. That is the helicopter that's going to be hopefully operational out of Oneida County. But right now we are partnering with our sister helicopter in Watertown. So they were operational at the end of May, so you'll have April and May. So I'll give you June's in a couple weeks. I'll just give it to you so you have a full set. We're on task for the same, maybe a little bit more when it comes to requests for Jefferson, and St. Lawrence County has been doing a lot of requests. I think a lot of it too is North Country Life Flight is no longer operational in the North Country for medical transport. So we're seeing an increase in the Clinton, Franklin counties, and also in some parts of St. Lawrence County. So
So the cancels, those are probably when dispatch is automatically contacting you based on the call, and we get on the scene and say, cancel because it's not a stroke, cancel because it's not something, that's the
Yes.
cancel, correct?
yes, yep. Aborts are, we get in the air and we have to abort due to weather. And Mark, please jump in when it comes to any more explanation with canceled or aborts.
Aborts typically would either be for maintenance or weather.
So we're in the air and we have to abort due to maintenance. And with cancels?
Cancels typically are from the requester, so whoever requested us canceled us.
Yep, okay, perfect. Thank you. Yep. And if you go to May 2023, go down right there. Deb, this is what I was talking to you about. So you
Okay.
see where it says J,
Yeah,
call started time. We can also provide, when we're on scene, that kind of stuff. If that's what you needed. I know that'll come up a little bit later, but I just want to let you know, whatever information you're needing, we can get that to you.
awesome.
Okay?
Any other questions for Colleen? All right.
Is Matt there is Matt over it?
He was teaching a class tonight, I think he said.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, he was teaching tonight, so there's no report for him.
So, state EMS meetings, go ahead, Devers.
So the state EMS meetings were the beginning part of May. Actually, a little bit of good news. They are increasing educational funding by $100 for the EMTs. One of the problems they found is they're not actually spending all of their allocated education money, so they can't ask for more. They're allowing for one pilot program per a course sponsor per year. They will give the accelerated funding for the academy style programs. Mike Bogozzi is now the Deputy Chief of Training and Ed. They are finally allowing students to have the test read to them. The student does need a IAP in order for that to happen. They switched the requirement to AWR 160 and are eliminating the requirement for hazmat awareness because it doesn't meet the learning objectives. The EMS task force, which was in the budget, is apparently to prepare for readiness. They will pay for readiness and deploy it in case there's a emergency. They are taking there is a big push to get blood on ambulances. There were a few CON actions, but because the state is so incredibly on top of stuff, they got slapped in the face when those got tabled because they sent the CON actions all 400 pages out about 12 hours before the meeting. They are revising safety 0013. They're going to work on education for de-escalation tactics, safety performance metrics, and reducing red lights and sirens. The new QI manual will be out soon. And they're looking at national quality metrics and how they can implement them in New York State. There's a new MOST protocol out that'll go in effect on 1/1. There's a new seizure protocol. They updated the medication pain management. Those all go in effect on 1/1. There's a group working on blood regulations. Apparently there's like 4 chem packs in each county that nobody knew about, so we got to listen to that for a little bit. They're reaching out to the folks at Wadsworth to get guidance on the iStat devices, which are the portable lab things. So some good news. There was a substantial increase to the pickup rate for Medicaid. They switched to relative value units like Medicare does. BLS emergency got about $60 increase. ALS 1 got about a $60 increase. ALS 2 got just shy of a $200 increase, and specialty care transport got just shy of a $300 increase. They did hire 21 new people, or they had openings for 21 new staff members so that they will be more productive and effective than they ever have been. There's 2 new policy statements that just went out. I'm sorry, 27 new staff members. There's 2 new policy statements that just went out. Data and informatics is going to be reducing the annoying drop-down boxes by 25%. Don't send them anything by mail, send it all by the form because they will lose it. The iGel demonstration project, as of this meeting, there were 40 agencies participating in 19 BLS iGel insertions. And some other good news, the community paramedicine pilot passed the state, so existing community paramedicine agencies can still work provided the governor signs it. And direct pay also passed last week, provided the governor signs it. So the next meeting is in September, I believe.
September 12th and 13th. You have anything to add?
I don't think so. I think that, the members are trying to take control of the CMAC and the SEMSCO and are trying to do things that is the best interest, and it's kind of upsetting the apple cart a little bit. But that's, I think, what has to happen is the CMAC docs need to be strong and the SEMSCO needs to be strong and do what needs to be done, so.
If there was,
If I can add,
Mark, the credentialing, or do you want me to?
you can hit the credentialing. I just want to add, all of the subcommittees are tasked with developing those performance indicators that were in the budget. And there's a very narrow timeline. If somebody wants to be a part of one of those committees, please reach out to me. Because every systems committee has, right now, I'm going to have 4 working groups at the beginning part of next week. So we really could use some fresh faces. And I'll let Jonathan fill in about the humor.
So there was a lot of talk at the program agency directors meeting and the med standards meeting about REMACs having the ability to credential providers that are running in their region. The Bureau stance is that the REMACs have no business doing it, but it's pretty well spelled out in Article 30 that the REMACs have that authority to credential and subsequently de-credential. So it got brought up at Med Standards. They called to vote on just the credentialing aspect of everything, and the state tried to shut them down. And then one of the Med Standards guys from New York City basically told them to sit down and shut up, we're voting. It was a little entertaining, but the CMAC and the Med Standards both voted unanimously to approve REMAX to continue credentialing providers. Now we're just working through the details of being able to suspend someone's ALS privileges in the region. What had happened is somebody had suspended somebody's complete privileges in a region down to the BLS level, or took their BLS level away, and the state's the only one that can take your BLS level away. It wasn't here, it was in the Finger Lakes region. So that started a whole fire under the state to say, well, you can't do any of that. And we're fighting back to say, well, yes, we can. So hopefully we'll know more at the next state meetings. Anything else, Mark? Okay. Old business protocols. So the alternative protocols drugs memo will go out tonight to agencies. That will give them the alternatives of. Oh, God, I'm blanking. Zopanex is one of them. Zopanex for, yep, to Ativan. In the event that they can't get them. And we also are allowing agency-specific medical directors to approve the usage of the GBOC hypopen, which is an alternative for glucagon, because that's been on short supply. So that will go out finally tonight. Data quality committee, or quality corner committee, we don't have a report. Data committee, we have a meeting tomorrow morning to figure out the new timeline, because the state had the timeline set for all the data and informatics stuff and then canceled the meeting. He canceled the meeting. Hopefully tomorrow we'll actually know what the timeline is. Their goal is to go live with NEMSIS 3.5 by the end of the year. The Mountain Lakes Reciprocity Agreement, their REMAC docs wanted to review the language in it a little bit closer. They had some concerns over just matching their CQI policy up with how our CQI policy works over here. At the end of the day, the complaint comes to our office anyways, and we send it out to the appropriate individual. So I think they're fine with it, and they'll vote on it in August at their next meeting. Number 9, Debbie, I'll let you talk.
So, Dr. Coates, has been submitted to the state to become our CMAC doc. They came back, they have started the, verification and needed some additional information, which has been provided to them. Their goal is to try to have you doc set for the September meeting, but I would be very surprised if it's done by then. But we'd still love to have you attend if you can for the September meeting, and we'll get you introduced and you can see what's going on. But our goal is to get you set for the September meeting.
Program agency report. Okay. So the RSTAC meetings for this region are upcoming this week. So we'll have an update for them soon. The Upstate Stroke Quality Group, so we still have the FAST ED education for the second wave of that. There's still a substantial amount of funding available for agencies that get over 50% of their providers to take the second portion of this and send us in their roster. Then they get, I think it's $229. So medical director changes, Beaver Falls, Lyons Falls, West Leiden, Turin, and J.S. Coster to Dr. Mathis from Lewis County. We do have all of their paperwork signed by him, so we need a motion from one of the docs to accept that change.
Do you want me to make this down, this one, we'll take that as a second motion?
When I go back through the report,
Okay.
I'll remember. Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
So we have a Dr. Delaney making the motion to accept the changes. Dr. Coates raised his hand, so I'm assuming that was him saying the seconds. All in favor? Level of care change, so this was approved, or no, sorry, I put this on the wrong slide, sorry. No, I didn't. Never mind. Ignore me. Star Lake Fire Department, they're downgrading from AEMT to the BLS level. Their one CC is, they don't see the reason to keep the cost of the equipment on their rig to, stay at the AEMT level when they're so close to Clifton Pine Hospital. So we need a motion to approve their downgrade. Dr. Coates, Dr. Holland, either one. All in favor? So the IGEL BLS demo project, so the highlighted ones are our newest agencies. So Indian River Ambulance, Town of Watertown Ambulance, Thousand Islands Rescue, and Lisbon Fire Department.
I gotta tell you, they did an amazing job on the training for this. It's really, really good, and they put a portal up to submit up the data if your BLS people use the iGel. But they hit it out of the park with the training they put together for this. It's really good.
Yeah. BLS adjuncts, so, with, Star Lake downgrading, they do want to add BLS 12 lead to their, capabilities. With them being so close to the hospital, it's pretty easy for them to transmit everything. We do have all their paperwork and their agreement signed by, Clifton Pine Hospital, so we just need a motion to approve that modality. Dr. Coates. Dr. Delaney seconds, all in favor?
And Maya's not here.
So we have a BLSFR application. This is more just for notification for this body. For Messina Volunteer Fire Department, Dr. Howland's gonna be their medical director, and the REMSCO just needs to do a letter of support so we can submit their application to the state. We have two new EMS, or, BLSFR agencies going into the EPCR process. So Helena, who was approved last, meeting, and Messina pending their approval by the state. So EPCR data integrity, again, it was postponed. So we're not quite sure when it's gonna happen, other than the goal is to be live on 3.5 by January. We still do continue to have issues with the ESO software platform. And now we're slowly seeing some others that are starting to have issues because of all the data points, that the state is trying to capture, and they don't have it really integrated into their charting system yet. With ESO, it's allowing them to say that their charts are complete when their charts are nowhere near complete. So they get the little green check mark at the bottom and they click done, and when it comes to the state, it fails. So training, so I'll let Debbie talk about spring fling.
So we had 154 in attendance at Spring Fling this year. We heard nothing but positive from the people that were in attendance. They liked the speakers, they liked the format, and I would just like to thank Jonathan and his staff, as well as Krista Kittle and Tom for coming up and helping as well. Krista did a lot of pictures and things and helped us with the press release from Spring Fling, and it was a great help. And I just, we've had a lot of positive feedback, and we've already started next year's, and I'm happy to report that Lillian will be here next year. We're gonna fly her up to Florida. She's gonna be a major speaker for us. She was our keynote Friday night and did an amazing job, and she just walked around and met with people. She used to be the EMS chief for FDNY. She retired in December.
After saving the world.
Yeah, after saving the world. And she, she just said it was beautiful up there. So I told her I wasn't gonna see her the next morning because I was lecturing, and that when she left us to come say goodbye, I said, we have some gifts for you native to the North Country. And I put together gift boxes, and I had, maple syrup and that kind of stuff. She goes, please tell me it's not a cow. And he said, it is, how big is your vehicle? So, but I think we had no hitches. I mean, everything just came off really well.
Yep, so we had 154 attendees this year, which is up from last year, which is around 125 to 130. I think we're bouncing back from COVID pretty good. It'd be nice to get us back up around the 200 mark, but getting up much over 200, it starts to get difficult for the facilities to be able to handle it. And plus it just makes it a little bit more stressful on us for the weekend, but it's still nice to see that it's growing and continuing to bounce.
And I think we will be up next year because the 2 years that we got the extension from the state, everybody's gonna be running out of that, so they're gonna be looking for hours. So I think we're gonna, be, but I think we'll have a talk about limiting it because it is very difficult to move in the halls and to set up the rooms and things. We had an amazing amount of vendors. I just think everything went, we just had a great conference and a lot of positive feedback, so.
So we also, our office worked with the area health education committees, and hosted a EMS leadership conference, which the title of that got deleted, sorry. So that was Saturday, May 13th at the Queensberry Hotel. We did it hybrid format. We had about 30 participants there. Various different speakers. Tom Zecker from FDR HBO presented on compliance and security and HIPAA. And that everyone really liked that presentation. It was very much geared around cultural changes for an ever-changing field. So there was like some bias training involved with it, and it was really well received by the people who attended. Then we have the learning management system, which launched at the end of January. Currently, we have 449 providers registered. That's in the Mountain Lakes and North Country regions combined. We are working on scheduling a Fort Drum EMS Day. They are very busy this summer, so we're looking at a September-October timeframe, and we're already working to get on the schedule for next year in probably a March timeframe. Because let's train in the snow, it'll be fun. ALS inspection, so Debbie accompanied me to Turin to do an inspection for their upgrade to the AEMT level. And it was meticulously spot on. It was very
They have a
good.
really nice system.
And
Because we
that's,
couldn't see to get to them because of all the
Yeah.
smoke in the air when we crested, coming into Loudville there, but.
I warned Debbie that I'm not coughing and hacking because I'm sick. I'm coughing and hacking because I'm a fat kid with asthma.
No, they really, Bob, they really are in good shape over there.
So EM Resource, so we have EM Resource as a diversion notification tool. We are sunsetting that program now that the state has launched their diversion website through EM Resource. So we will be terminating our contract with Javari on 9/30/2023. But coming quickly on its heels is Pulsera. So Pulsera is a system that is going to be adopted to track hospital diversions, but also enhance pre-arrival notifications from EMS agencies to the hospitals. Pulsera is free in its base mode, which is communications from EMS to ER. It's accessible through a web base, and there's also applications. All the communications are all HIPAA compliant. Nothing is stored on the device. Everything is pushed through the app and stored through the app. It gives the real-time hospital diversion notification still, which is something that everybody has asked for. And the nice thing is too, coming from the program agency side of things, is this EM Resource we could only use in the North Country side, so Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties, where this is something that we'll be able to use in our entire 8-county reach that we have, which just helps make things a little easier for us. The mid-state region is going to Pulsera. The Albany Med region has gone to Pulsera. University of Vermont is now moving towards Pulsera, and the Central New York hospitals are also moving towards Pulsera. So anybody who's already transferring out to those regions, any of the EMS agencies are gonna have to be utilizing this system because that's how they're gonna notify the hospitals in those other regions that they're coming. They'll still have to have radio communications and everything, but it's not gonna be the main method for those regions to notify the hospitals. As I said, the base platform is free. It will always be free to EMS. If the hospitals choose to add on different functions that the platform has, then the individual hospitals will have to pay for that add-on. But that includes like team activations within the facility. So if somebody's coming in with a stroke or a major trauma case and the ER wants to notify the trauma team, they can just go through Pulsera and activate, and it automatically activates. We had our first meeting with North Country Hospitals last week. And I know Carthage has already filled out their paperwork and sent it in. So we're slowly getting there. Our goal is to really get the hospitals online with it and then move it out to the EMS agency. So that way the hospitals have a firm setting on what they're doing, what the functionality is, and how they can help the EMS providers use it better. And there also is integration between the platform and most of the EPCR vendors. So some of that basic demographic information that you're putting in there in that patient channel to go to the hospital will integrate from Pulsera into your charting software. So miscellaneous, so we've been, participating in the state quality metrics, the state legislative committee, and the state data and informatics teams for the NEMSIS 3.5 update. Two of us from the office sit on the education team for the update. I attended state EMS meetings in May. Next meetings are in September. And then we had two representatives from the office at the EMS Memorial. And we also had South Jeff Rescue. And I think we were the only ones from Indian River, South Jeff, and our office were the only ones that made it down this year. More miscellaneous stuff, the CNY Health Emergency Preparedness, which there's a radiology drill, I think, this Friday that I'm going down to in Syracuse. Really radiological. Northern New York Child Fatality Review Team, we pull charts for them and help make sure that we can provide better education on that. The Central and Western Stroke groups, Samaritan's Stroke meetings, the Upstate Stroke Quality Group. We sit on the MIH meetings, and if you have any paperwork that needs to come to our office, just as a reminder again, paperwork at fdrhbo.org, so then it doesn't get lost in my email. Any questions for the program agency? Perfect. Debbie, do you want to go over your elected assets?
So, South Jeff has submitted a proposal to the REMAC docs to try a sepsis treatment pilot program. I don't know if all your docs looked at it, if you have any questions. Bringing it forward now, because if you approve it, I have to submit a change to our Wadsworth, which is our limited lab license, to add doing that in there. And sometimes it comes through quick and sometimes it doesn't come through so quick. So if you approve this, we will get that submitted. We will do additional training at the squad. There is a suspected sepsis checklist that we will be using to do this. And we would like to pilot this and see how it works.
We need a motion.
That A and B is confusing to me. Does the patient have two criteria? Temperature greater than 38, temperature greater than 36?
Should be less than.
Less than.
Oh, it should be less than, okay,
Okay.
that should be less than.
I'll make a motion to support South Jeff's pilot program.
Motion by Dr. Delaney. Do we have a second? Dr. Howland, thank you. All in favor? Debbie, do you want to talk about your telemedicine stuff?
Sure, so South Jeff is piloting a telemedicine program. We have signed on with UCM out in Albany. And we went live last Monday and we've done training. We bought iPads, they're in all the ambulances. We bought hotspots, what are those things?
Wi-Fi's.
No, there have to be other, the mega range.
Mega range so that we can reach them. So what will happen is if we get on the scene and the crew determines the patient acuity doesn't really need to go to the emergency room and they agree We will call a number at UCM. We will talk with a clerk, give her the information. She will then have us go to a Zoom that is a PHI compliant Zoom. We will talk with a doc. They have 8 docs that are part of this group, and they're not in the emergency room working at the time. They're in a different location, so they're not ED docs trying to take care of ED patients and do this at the same time. We will talk to them, give them information. We will then give the iPad to the patient. They will talk directly with the patient, and if they need a script, they need something like that, okay, where do you get your scripts through? And they will send it to them. And then they follow up with everybody within 48 hours of being seen doing that. We can also call them if we're trying to encourage somebody to go. And we're having difficulty getting somebody, we can use that service that way and have them talk to the patient and say, it sounds like you really should go. So we're really excited to pilot this up in our region. It's being used in a lot of the other areas very successfully. And we haven't had anybody that's met the criteria yet or that we didn't feel should go to a hospital. But we can certainly share our results on a monthly basis along with our sepsis so that can be distributed for the next meeting and people can see how it's going.
Do I do this next?
Sure,
Does it
so-
allow the ambulance to bring the patient to an alternate location, like a doctor's office or an urgent care?
Not at this point, but we don't know
Have any
what's,
of those?
yeah, we don't know what's we had two lines of the budget or 2 things before the legislators that were approved. We haven't read them yet to see what they put in there, to see if there's any alternate destination in there.
Well, we can always take somebody to an alternate destination, but number one, we don't get paid for it, but number 2, we don't, down in our area, there really is nowhere else to take somebody. The clinic in Adams closed, there's nowhere closer for us.
Yeah.
To even use that as an option.
There might be
I
in
think there's
some other
what, 2 in the
areas.
county, I think the Lorraine Clinic might be open and.
2 in Watertown.
Clayton or something, Watertown's got one,
2, Watertown has 2.
yeah.
So,
Russell just doesn't.
and we're gonna be keeping track and work with the insurance companies to try to get them to pay us our base rate.
Debbie, it's Mark down in Lewis County. I would double check, but Bob and I were just chatting. I don't believe the public health, I don't believe Article 30 allows a certified ambulance to transport anywhere but an emergency department. That's been brought up from time to time over the years, and I am 99% confident that the only place that we can transport without an alternate plan, it certainly could be part of the telemedicine plan that's approved, I would suppose, but as a general rule, certified emergency departments are the only place we can go to. This came up when I was the regional director with Guthrie, the clinic on Fort Drum, where it basically got kicked back by the state and said, no, you just cannot do that.
Yeah, it was in the information with COVID, which expired on May 11th, but some of that got put into legislation last week, and we're just not sure what was put in yet. We haven't seen what got passed by the Senate and the Assembly, because that was supposed to be part of it. So this next thing is the air medical utilization screen. We are required to yearly do a screen to see, what's going on in our region. And so we came up with this air medical utilization screen. So our whole purpose and goal of this is to help identify if we need to do some more education and training at our ambulance levels, if there's something that we're not sharing that they need to know. I did talk with Dr. Gray about this last week as the air medical director for Air Methods, and they had some concerns wondering what we were trying to do. And I explained we're not looking to do anything negative. We're trying to identify if there's a need for additional training. For example, South Jeff has used them twice in the last month, and they RSI patients, and there was an extended time on scene. Well, we didn't know that they have to do certain things to get blood pressures to a certain level in order to do that and some things like that. So that's an education that maybe as advanced providers, we could be pushing fluids and try to get closer to that systolic blood pressure that they want before the RSI. So we identified that as a potential training need. So what I told Dr. Gray we would do is on a monthly basis, we would send this screen out just to the docs and particularly her to look at, to scrub, to make sure we don't have any inaccurate information before it's shared with everybody else.
Any questions?
Yes. Yeah, it's Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, okay. To save people a lot of work, I mean, I guess my question is, did you reach out to Colleen or to Dr. Gray? Because as I look through the screen, all of that data is already collected by our methods. And I would think that there would be an easy way to just share that with you so that it's not labor intensive for folks. Dr. Gray looks at each and every chart that's generated within the North Country. She's the medical director for Potsdam, Watertown, Rome, and Seneca Falls. So it'd be a very rare occurrence, like some MCI where we got 3 helicopters up here. She looks at every single chart, reviews every chart, comments on every chart. So all that data is already available. So just, I guess, from my perspective, that's going to be, we're just creating work for information that's already available. And I think the part 2 of that is, I do think that there needs to be some better education, probably on Air Methods end as well as the ground end about the parameters of. I think one of the big things that people forget nowadays is we bring ICU and emergency department level care to the patient. You know, blood, RSI medications, we carry, including blood, it's just shy of 100 medicines that we have nowadays. So, in the level of care that we bring. So there are times that for whatever reason, we're on scene longer than we would like. Maybe people think that we should be. However, anytime we're on scene for a trauma call that's more than 10 minutes, we have to justify in our documentation why that is. So if I'm 23 minutes on an RSI MVA where I'm giving blood, I'm giving pressors, doing an RSA, putting the patient on a ventilator, sometimes that happens, but there is, we always have to justify that. Like, I guess I just want to make sure that folks in general know that that information is already there. And I would think it could be shared like on a monthly basis to save people the work of having to fill, to fill these forms out.
If you look at the
Yes.
screen, it says right under time flight crew departed landing zone. The next questions seem like they're more pertinent towards the ground crews about establishing IVs, if the unit was ALS or not, if it was a stroke patient, did they do a blood glucose? Do you, when we do the transfer of care ground to air, do you guys document this information in your charting?
Yes. Like a blood, for instance, if the ground crew gives us a fast ED score, if they started a couple IVs, a blood glucose, all of that goes into the chart, particularly for strokes, because we participate with SUNY's data metrics. So on a quarterly report, we get those metrics back from SUNY, making sure that both us and the ground are meeting those metrics of blood glucose, at least 2 fast ED scores, at least 2 IVs, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I can reach out to Mercy and see if they can give us the same data, but yes, Colleen and I did speak about this before this was put out.
Right.
I did go over it with her and give her a chance to look at it to make sure, but
And I do agree with Mark. I mean, redundancy of more work on the
Absolutely.
ground providers. So if this is information that can be obtained, I only can speak for LifeNet Air Methods. If we can get that information, filter it, and come up with, how often you would like the report, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, how long you're gonna be running this, pilot, we can work those out, but I just don't know about, other paramedical companies that can do that, like Mercy or whatever. And if there was a certain, like, Jose, oh my God, the time, date, IV use, that kind of stuff, format, that's the word, format. If there was a format that you wanted, so it's easy for you to combine them, we can work on that together.
okay, I'll reach out to Mercy and see if they can do the same thing then for us.
Any other questions about that? So we do have an adjustment to make to the ambulance minimum equipment list. It's because innovation was taken out of the AEMT level. So we removed any of the innovation materials from that. And then made CPAP equipment for the AEMT level if trained and equipped. So those are the only changes we made. Can we get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll let you off the hook for this one. Dr. Holland and Dr. Coates. All in favor? And then the last thing I have for you is the CQI policy. So we are gonna start going through a lot of the policies here on the North Country end as we look to try to find different things that we can align with the Mountain Lakes region to make some of our processes a little bit easier across the northern part of the state. So really, all this is, and it was forwarded out to the docs, just more clearly spells out the process that we are taking now when we have a CQI complaint come in. And that we will enter, or when the request comes in, we will review it in a completely non-biased way. We pull the charts out of Hospital Hub, so it's in a generic format. I will go in and look at the actual chart from the PCR vendor to see if there's anything that's missing. And then we do a staff review with Dr. Delaney. And then if warranted, it will go to either the regional CQI committee, which is all the docs, or it will go directly to the state. Or we will handle it ourselves and make remediation recommendations to the agency medical director, because that's who really holds the authority. One thing we did add under the recommendations for remediation is that if in the event that the regional medical director and the agency's medical director don't agree on a plan of remediation, the matter will be forwarded to the regional CQI committee and or the state based on the severity of the issue. It's not a problem that we've had before until recently, that we had an agency medical director not agree with the region's recommendations. But we've worked through that.
Number 5 too, that added to the immediate restrictions.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
I thought we added number 5. I thought Maya wanted to add.
So Dr. Gray suggested adding in, going on a call under the influence, but that's a state reportable. So I don't really know if it needs to be spelled out in the regional CQI policy because it is a state reportable. It's covered by state policy.
Well, so is patient abandonment.
True.
So is patient medicine without balance. I mean,
We can add it. That's easy. So I can add that in if that's what everybody would like. Thanks. I'll forget. And my pen just died. So can we get a motion to accept the new updated CQI policy? Dr. Coates, seconded by Dr. Howland. All in favor? Oh, I don't think I shared it. I'm sorry. Does anybody else have any other new business?
You want to see that in the 15 on there if you want to just.
Oh, so EMS transport blood products. So Mark really touched on it with the state EMS meetings. Wadsworth is working through the application process. I don't know how many years we've heard that Wadsworth is working through the application process to make it easier. But we'll see what actually happens, and maybe we'll have some more information after the September meeting. Any other business to come before the REMAC? Hearing none, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Dr. Coates? Dr. Howland, all in favor? Thanks, everybody. Stop.